Since 2003, this is The Sports Source with your host, John Pennington.
The Sports Source is presented by Junk Be Gone, Pipe Wrench, and the Garza Law Firm.
The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Junk Be Gone studios for today's edition of the Sports Source. We appreciate you being with us. Tennessee gets shown what seed they're going to have in the NCAA tournament as of yesterday, and they promptly go out and stink against Vanderbilt in the first half. Second half, they turned it all around. We'll debate the reasons for the up and down performance. We'll talk about the 81-76 victory for Tennessee, Zakai Zeigler and all the guys who made that happen. We got much more to come on as well. We got baseball, we got football, a little bit of everything today. The one thing I will throw out there, though, for those of you watching at home on DVR, if you just sat down, it's like, oh, I'm going to watch this on DVR. We're probably going to cut off after 30 minutes. It seems the grid guide is incorrect, and it has been incorrect for the last couple of weeks. Now, I get emails about this because there's a disclaimer at the front of the show that says this is Pennington Productions. I have nothing to do with the grid guides. And if it makes you mad, imagine how mad I am that we can't get the... I've only been here for 20 years in this time slot, 23 years overall, 20 years on WATE6. So it's a long story. The networks and your streamers, they go and get the information from a grid guide company. That company has to get it right. So anyway, if it cuts off at 30 minutes, you can go check out the rest of the show on our YouTube channel. Also, I would suggest for any of you out there, you can get into your DVR, whatever it is, Comcast or DirecTV or whatever, find how to do a manual recording and then just set it. WATE every Sunday, 11 to 12:30. Because it may say we're not here, but by gosh, we're here. 51 weeks every year, if not 52, which we did last year. So if those of you lose this 30 minutes, go to our YouTube channel. Let's get into this show before I get mad. This segment brought to you by our friends at Junk Be Gone. You want to get a jump start on your spring cleaning, give a call to Junk Be Gone. This is the team that I have used for years, often imitated, never duplicated, locally owned, family owned, long proven track record, and the best folks in the world to deal with. Call Mike Such and his team this week. Use who I use. Junk Be Gone. JunkBeGone.biz to learn more. All right, let's welcome in the first wave of panelists. We have right there Josh Ward. We have apparently superfan Tyler Ivens.
It's Vanderbilt weekend. Come on now, tradition.
I allow this with Sterling Hinton.
Come on, baby. I got it.
Yeah, I don't know if I've had media guys do. All right.
Sorry. Yeah.
Mark Pancratz right here, former Vol assistant coach, former D1 basketball player himself. Yeah.
I'll bring my orange one next week.
Thank you.
You coached over there, so I'll allow that. The media makes me a little...
You're right.
I may put you over there. Josh,
One and done.
No, it's
That was a Donnie Tyndall impersonation.
That's right.
I look like him. Yeah, I do.
Talk like Donnie Tyndall. No, I didn't know what those boosters were doing up there. And then we got right here Chuck Cavalaris. Chuck, thanks for being here.
Great to be here, John.
Okay. As I said, Tennessee came out sluggish yesterday. Sluggish. They were down 16.
Yes.
That's a little more than sluggish. They had to race from behind to beat Vanderbilt. All of a sudden, their offense came together in the second half. Their defense got better in the second half. Takeaways. Mark Pancratz, I'll let you get the ball rolling. What were your takeaways from yesterday's game?
Well, the energy was abysmal to start that half. I mean, we had no attention to detail. Our spacing offensively, our defensive principles. He talked about Igor was unhealthy in the week and so didn't practice. And against this caliber of SEC team, you can't miss some of the nuances of the defensive game plan. And Vanderbilt exposed it. But at the end of the day, there was not a guy on that sideline in that first half that was grabbing somebody by the collar and say, look, this is not acceptable. Apparently they did that at halftime, and you saw the results of it. But when you play a really good team, Vanderbilt's a good team, but when you play a really good team's going to bury you. You're going to be down 25-30 in the first half playing like that, and you're not going to have a chance to come back. So we need to learn from that quickly.
Let me throw something else very, very quickly. And I'm in danger of taking this off topic, but you're always hearing football, well, the other team wanted it more. And the problem in football is it's hard for the little guy, the little engine that can't just win by wanting it more. Basketball, you go into the wrong gym on the wrong night, the little guy can take you down. How important is want to in college basketball?
Well,
because if you're talking about, energy level, I consider that part of, if you're just sitting there and taking it, that's not want to, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's a level of energy, and then there's a level of you get paralyzed by the moment of things aren't going your way, and you're kind of in that starstruck moment of like, all right, what's going on here? This is not us. What are we doing? And that's where you need somebody to snap you out of it and grab you by the collar, whether it's Zakai, whether it's a coach, whether it's a guy on the bench, that someone's got to get that energy going quicker. And thankfully, you were able to see that in the way that Zakai and Chaz performed in that second half.
And I'm not suggesting they don't care about winning and losing. I'm suggesting on a certain day, you can come out flat, and you need somebody to put a foot in your backside to get everybody going. Chuck,
I think my column would be that the rivalry is back in this series, and it had been gone for a long time. And now it matters to Vanderbilt, playing off what you said. You've got so many guys from the portal. Milicic said after the Kentucky game that all losses are the same. And I don't think Tennessee fans would necessarily agree with that. But you've got the rivalry back again. You got a villain with Vanderbilt that Tennessee fans can boo against. And now you got Zakai Zeigler, all 22 points in the second half. I mean, that was just a sensational second half. But like you said, where was the energy at tip-off?
Takeaways?
So I think as the 40 minutes played out, we got the reminder of the two guys that will likely lead or play the biggest role in how far Tennessee goes. Everybody has their role to play, but Chaz Lanier, by the end, he had the point production Tennessee needs, and then obviously the difference in Zakai Zeigler first half to second half was the difference in Tennessee not being in the game versus winning the game. And there are other factors. Felix Okpara woke up, and he had the fight in him, but when we talk about what Tennessee's going to do in a few weeks, what Zakai Zeigler and Chaz Lanier do will play a huge role in what the Vols do.
They didn't get their first offensive rebound. Tennessee didn't until about the 3-minute mark of the first half. They didn't want to be in the paint. They were getting absolutely just go in and try to rip things away. Rick Barnes made it very clear after the Illinois win, even though it was kind of that bang at the buzzer with Jordan Gainey. We let them get too comfortable here tonight in their own house. Knoxville, when they lost to Kentucky, we just let Kentucky get too comfortable in this matchup. In the first half, Vanderbilt could do whatever they wanted to do. And then that's when you see a 13-point deficit get flipped on its head to an 18-point advantage to you with the 5-point difference. Tennessee finally started playing aggressive. And I knew eventually it would turn on, just especially by the way that Chaz played in the first half.
Go ahead.
Well, the one point you talked about, Chaz and Zakai, I think that's obviously the best two players. They perform well. We're going to perform well. But to me, you mentioned Felix and you mentioned Meshack. The reason why their performance are so vital is Barnes is a defensive guy. If we don't get offensive production from Felix or Meshack making 2 big threes in the corner, one down the stretch in the second half, if we don't get offensive production from them, our Chaz and Zakai all of a sudden become much easier to defend. And now we're going to struggle to score. We need point production from those other guys.
The Igor Milicic thing, I thought it was interesting. We both commented on this yesterday after the game, that he was out for the last 4 minutes of that game. Then after the game, you hear from Rick Barnes, well, he didn't practice this week. He was sluggish because he missed practice. He had screwed up a lot of assignments in the first half. That's a guy that you don't need sitting on the bench the last 4 minutes. If he's healthy and ready to go, I want him on the court.
Right.
I'm telling you, if Meshack doesn't make that corner three, we're questioning it a lot more. Because he turned down one, maybe 2 possessions before that, and you're sitting there I'm there at the game watching like, why is Igor not on the floor? He's their most, we talked about it all year. He's their most important player offensively, and he's sitting there on the bench, and I guess he wasn't feeling he's feeling well enough to play 26 minutes before that. But
I believe Igor was listed as a game-time decision and had calf. I don't know if that was it. We also heard after the game, Okpara had some kind of injury in practice that had him limited.
Right.
So you don't have enough bodies. If you've got somebody game-time decision that hadn't practiced all week, you get somebody that gets hurt in practice.
Let me throw out another topic that's come up 3 of the last 4 games. Now, they boat raced Oklahoma at Norman, so take that one out. But the other 3 games in this 4-game stretch, Missouri, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, they have been down 13, 7, 6, and technically they were down more than that. That's what the number was at halftime.
Right.
Like Vanderbilt, you're down 16 the first half. But 13, 7, 6, you have to come back each time. They failed to hit more than 28 points in all 3 of those games. Now, they were 3-1 because you got past Oklahoma and you came back on 2 of them. How big of a concern is this? We're a month away from March Madness, and you're starting to have this slow start thing kick in. How big of a concern, Josh?
Yeah, it's for real. If you have that happen, neutral court, where it might be difficult to knock down shots and you have to enter comeback mode where you're going to have to take those shots if you're down 10 points, 12 points, more than that.
Right.
And the crowd's not there to be behind you.
Exactly, and you don't have that kind of energy to boost you back up, then it's a huge concern.
Selection Sunday's 28 days from now. You go to a neutral site gym, 11 a.m., noon tip-off, depending on what time zone you're in. You get down 10, 12, 14 points. It's all she wrote with
how
this
about
team.
this? Tennessee had lost 17 straight games when they trailed by at least 15, 16 points. So you can say, well, you fall behind that much, you're probably going to lose. But they came back and beat Vanderbilt.
They did. I'm just saying I don't want to
know,
continue
but
to fall behind, do you?
Why can't you put two good halves together? That's the question. And that's what you're going to need as you go on into tournament time.
Mark, thoughts on them
I
falling
think
behind these last few games?
As long as we don't get, it's like football. If you're a run offense first, when you get behind, now all of a sudden you got to be passing it.
Right.
If we get 3-point happy and start jacking too much because we're trying to catch up, I think one thing that's optimistic about the way that we handled that second half yesterday is we kept attacking the basket. We kept attacking the basket as opposed to, oh my gosh, we're behind. Let's start jacking up a bunch of three-pointers, and it ended up turning out to be a beneficial win.
Good first segment. Man, this is going to be a good show. All right, when we come back, great on defense, so-so on offense. What does that usually mean when you get to the NCAA tournament? What has happened to previous teams that rank number one in the country in defensive efficiency? And Tennessee is number one by a good margin, by a fur piece right now. We'll tell you. Come on back on the Sports Source. Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by A.G. Hines Company. If you're starting a winter do-it-yourself project, a winter home improvement project, you're going to need winter building materials. You'll find those and the tools you need and the best possible prices at A.G. Hines Company. This set that we're on, the sets that we use at Sports Source Digital Network, all built with A.G. Hines Company materials. I believe in A.G. Hines Company. For 105 years, Knoxvillians have believed, East Tennesseans have believed in A.G. Hines Company. Your grandpappy used them, you should too. aghines.com to learn more. All right, I want to start with Tyler and Mark here. Coach Mears and Mark, I want to throw out some data and get your guys' reaction to these, all right? So you can just go, huh, yeah, no kidding, or you can go, wow, amazing. So let's throw some stuff out here. The first one. Which is more important, do you think? Tennessee's three-pointers or I'll get to that in a second. Field goal percentage for and against. Left to right is the offensive field goal percentage on that axis. Up and down is your opponent's field goal percentage. As you can see, Tennessee's at the top by a mile. Teams shooting 37% against them. That's best. But look at all those SEC teams to the right of them. Those teams are all better. In terms of shooting, just pure field goal percentage, you're better than Ole Miss, you're better than South Carolina, you're better than Texas A&M right now. Your field goal percentage has been dropping throughout SEC play. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone, but do we have a reaction or no? We can just move on to the next one.
No, I do. Our last segment, we were just talking about how Tennessee has trailed in 3 of those last 4 games outside of Norman, Oklahoma. Seeing Tennessee's inability time in and time out to be able to not make shots. Mark, I asked you this question this past week when you joined us on Afternoon Drive. It was really simple. Do you believe Tennessee has a defensive problem? And you perked up and said, Coach Barnes better not hear you say that, because if they've got a defensive problem, then we got a whole other nest issue. Tennessee needs to start hitting more shots because, as I said to you on the show, we already know how March is going to play out if they continue to be in those 20, 30 percentiles we just saw.
A little wrinkle thought around that is I think defense has to be the focus for Igor. Because if Igor is not playing well defensively, Barnes won't have him in the game. And for me, in order for us to make it to an Elite Eight or a Final Four, we need Igor to be locked in defensively so that he can be on the floor from an offensive perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, let's talk about defensive efficiency here. I jumped ahead a whole segment with that other stat. We'll get you there. But the next step I want to talk about is tops in defensive efficiency. Ken Pomeroy does this every year. Tennessee number 1 right now in defensive efficiency. You see they were number 1 in 2023 as well. There was no NCAA tournament in 2020. That's why it's there in orange, the COVID year. How have these number 1 defensive efficiency teams done? In the last 5 years, Iowa State out in the Sweet 16. Tennessee out in the Sweet 16. Texas Tech out in the Sweet 16. Memphis never got in. You go back before that, Texas Tech made the finals. Virginia made the round of 6. Well, they were out immediately. That was that team that was number 1 in the country all year long and lost to Maryland, Baltimore County. Gonzaga made it to the finals. Wichita State, Sweet 16. Kentucky, that was the undefeated team that lost in the semifinals to Wisconsin. But you see, those teams that made it to the finals, to the Final Four, offensive efficiency, top 25. You got to have the top 25 offensive efficiency to go with the defensive efficiency. You see up and down the line, the other guys, the other teams that didn't have that, didn't make it. Any surprises there?
Best predictor of the future is the past.
Yeah.
That looks like a roadmap of how Tennessee's season's going to end if they do not get that offensive efficiency climbing.
All right, well, before we react to that, let me give you another stat. Let's go up now here. You don't have to study this graphic. Let's go to the next one. That's small. I'm just showing you that I did my math, okay? If I don't put that up there, people are going to say, he's just making that up. So I'm not making it up, but you don't have to study that. Just listen to me. The gist of that, what that shows you is the last 5 Final Fours. All right, so that's 20 teams that made the last 5 Final Fours. Green means they didn't rank inside the top 25 in defensive efficiency. Red means they didn't rank inside the top 25 in offensive efficiency. The gist is this. 10 of the 20 teams that made the Final Four were top 25 in both categories. So half the teams that make the Final Four, you got to be top 25 in offense, top 25 in defense. 8 of the 20 did not rank in the top 25 in defensive efficiency. Only 4 of the 20 that made the Final Four didn't rank in offensive efficiency in the top 25. In other words, if you want to travel to the Final Four, you better be efficient on offense. Tennessee's about 36 or 37 right now. That would be outside that cut line looking back over history. Is that fuzzy math, or do you put something to it?
Curiosity, and I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you remember where Tennessee offensively ranked last year when they fell short against Purdue? Do you remember where they were going into that Elite Eight game?
It was not top 25. No, I don't remember where.
So if there are a lot of people who would argue the best production that they've seen from a Tennessee team was last year's team, who fell 21, 22 minutes away from a Final Four. Even they wouldn't have met this criteria. I think this is a hell of a nugget, and I think this is an excellent cheat sheet for what's to come over the next couple of weeks and what Tennessee needs to do during this poor schedule that's left remaining in the regular season.
You buy it, Mark, or you sell it on that?
Absolutely. I start
We've
thinking
talked about it for a while.
I start thinking about the refs, NCAA tournament, like we're very physical. The SEC is very physical.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, if we're not allowed to play defense like we have been with the physicality of getting through screens and fighting screen, we're in foul trouble, and so we got to increase our offensive efficiency.
All right, very good, guys. When we come back, we're going to do more of that, including what is the number one stat, the most important stat? I've gone through SEC play, all Tennessee's SEC games. What's the one stat that has a bigger correlation with winning and losing than anything else? We've talked about it on this show before, but not with the numbers. You'll see those next. Come on back on the Sports Source. Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our program is brought to you by Uncle Jim's River Cove Campground, complete with premium Riverside or Mountain View RV sites. They have sites big enough to fit everything from tents, giant rigs, each site equipped with full hookups, fire pit, charcoal grill, picnic table. That's fantastic. Do a little winter camping or do a little planning for your spring and summer right now. Start booking ahead. rivercovecampground.com. All right, let's take a look at our poll question for today, and I wonder if our last segment's going to impact it. Nope, there we go. A lot of you have already been online to vote on this thing, and the question is, how do you feel about the Vols' March Madness chances? You got 3 options. 1, feel great, got a killer defense. Meh, it's a Barnes team. Or awful, shoddy offense. Right now, the winner, great, killer defense. Tell us what you think. Use your smartphone. Click that QR code in the corner right below the Hearthside Bank logo. Click that, play along, or you can go to sportsource.tv and click the polls button and play along that way. We like to know what the Vol fans are thinking out there. Tell us what your opinion is. You feeling great about the March Madness they're ahead? Awful or meh? I don't know how to describe meh, but everybody knows what meh means. Okay. Let's take a look. We got another setup of graphics for Josh and Mark here, and I want to get your response to this. Let's take a look. This is one I almost threw to in the last segment. What do you think is more important, made three-pointers or holding the other team to fewer three-pointers? Well, when you do the math, it's not the defense. In the SEC, when Tennessee wins their game, the opponent hits 7.9 threes. In the average, when Tennessee loses, the opponent hits 8.2 threes. No difference. The difference comes when Tennessee wins in the SEC, they hit 9 threes. When they lose, they hit 6. That is a pretty big drop. That is a pretty big drop. When you're talking 9 and you take 3 of them out of there, 33% lower, that gets you beat. Any surprise that it's their shooting on offense that's a bigger issue than their defense against their opponent shooting?
No, it's a huge difference because then it's the ripple effect, right? Because then it loosens things up for the inside game. If you're not making threes, they're hugged up on the paint, makes it harder for Zakai to get in there, for Akbar to get touches. So absolutely, it's a difference maker.
Yeah, not really surprised at all, especially after the worst Tennessee's been defending the 3 has been against Kentucky, right? Well, the other night, Rick Barnes, he didn't even seem bothered by the shots that Kentucky hit on the outside because he knew Tennessee still had a chance late to win the game, but Tennessee's the one that couldn't put anything together while Kentucky kept it together in those final 8 minutes of the game. So, no, I'm not surprised to see that at all. Tennessee's defense overall, I expect to be consistent. Can the offense do its part to keep them advancing?
Yeah, and I think that ties into some of the stuff we talked about in that last segment as well, that when you get into the NCAA tournament, we can sit here and talk about their great defense. But when they go out, if they go out, and 67 of the 68 teams do, when they go out, we're going to look back and say, oh, well, they hit X amount of threes instead of Y amount of threes.
2 years ago against FAU went on a run, which happens in the second half, but Florida Atlantic didn't have a great offensive game. Tennessee just had an awful offensive game, and that's why it got bounced. And that was without Zakai. He was out with the knee injury, but still, that would go back to the point of, can the offense get you there?
Well, we have talked about this year, that it's very important. I was looking at a lot of different stats yesterday to see looked at rebounding, offensive rebounding, defensive rebounding, free throw attempts, everything, anything you could possibly do, like 20 different stats. And I kept coming back to this one, and it has the biggest correlation between wins and losses for Tennessee and SEC play. Points in the paint. Take a look at this, folks. Tennessee and SEC play, they are 8-5 overall. Okay, they're 8-5. When they are even or they win the points in the paint battle, they're 8-2. When they lose the points in the paint battle, 0-3. The total difference in SEC wins, they are plus 84 in the paint when they win. They are minus 28 in those 5 losses. Average, when they win the points in the paint 31-20, plus 10.5. When they lose an SEC game, typically they're about 6 down in the points in the paint. You want to track what Tennessee's doing? Watch what kind of success they're having in the paint.
And we saw that yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, we were getting manhandled in the inside at the first half of that game, and then yesterday we dominated the points in the paint. So it was a direct reflection of what you saw yesterday.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I think that probably comes back to everybody playing their role, right? Because you have, you're not going to expect Felix Akbar to dominate, but if he plays his role, Jemai Mashak, he hit the 2 shots on the outside. He hit a lane, took it, and hit a basket at the goal. So those type plays, they add up. If everybody's doing that, Zakai obviously is going to have a chance to get at the basket a lot.
Yeah, the other thing that you brought up, Zakai, I think we got to give Zakai credit. I mean, he's starting to attack the paint more. He's finishing better at the rim. You know, we saw that Kentucky game where we shot 45 threes, and we've really adapted since that point. And give Zakai credit because he is finishing at the rim at a much higher clip than he has been in recent years.
And at times I think it's pretty good about knowing I might not be able to make a play at the basket, but I might be able to draw a foul at the basket. He knows what he's doing when he's trying to make that kind of play.
Yeah.
When they just decide we're going to be a jump shooting team, it is bad news. That's just not their way of – and all these stats kind of tie together. They're all saying different – they're looking at the same problem just from different viewpoints. They all kind of point to the same thing. If you wind up having to be the jump shooting team, that's going to be the night you go home. Whereas if you do your thing – drive the basket, get the ball inside. Everything else should take care of itself because your defense, you can kind of count on your defense. It all comes back to the offense, and it all comes back to what style of offense they're playing.
Yeah, one thing I liked about yesterday we started to pick up tempo a little bit. We got down, we didn't have much energy, and we started that pressure again. You've seen that when we've been down in stretches in previous games, we start picking up full court a little bit. One, that counters what we struggled to defend the most. Is the interior guy. It's the big body. And if we can pick up tempo, that helps our defense. And then offensively, it helps us to have better flow. We're playing with more tempo as opposed to getting in the half-court game on the offensive end, which is where we struggle.
Very good. All right. When we come back, we're going to look at the bracket that the NCAA Selection Committee revealed yesterday. We'll talk about where Tennessee was placed in that. But first, just a quick snippet from our latest show over at the Sports Source Digital Network. If you want more programs like this, just go over there and subscribe. It's free. That's basically like a follow. Go to our YouTube channel, look it up, click, and you'll see more shows like Give Him 6, where I sat down with my buddy John Wilkerson and with Marlon Walls, and we talked about the 6 most outrageous moments That's a heck of a countdown because there's a lot of moments. 6 most outrageous moments during the Dooley and Kiffin years. Here's Marlon Walls with a couple of memories. Monty Kiffin actually, he actually got a chance to speak to the defense, correct?
Yep.
Do you remember what he was?
Yeah, so for us, Monty, like I respect to this day. And whenever I saw him, it was all love. Because what he basically told us was like, hey, look, my son's an idiot. Literally, like he's like, man, this is a dream place. Like this is almost heaven on earth for us. And he was like, but you guys will understand one day, like when your son calls you and tell you, hey, I need you, you just go. And he was like, man, but he literally had tears running down his eyes. Whereas Lane's kind of like, man, I gotta stand here and do this real quick. He's kind of like more genuine, like, all right, man, this is gonna be tough. So we respected his meeting a lot more than we did Lane Kiffin meeting for sure. I've got a couple of freshmen right here behind me, and literally, like he lifts up his phone and was like, man, Ogeron calling me right now. And so, like, I got Chris Walker. I'm right in my seats next to his. Gerald Williams right here next to me. And so they snatched the phone out of his hand and put it on speaker. And you literally hear, this is the first thing he say, do not go to class. You're coming to USC. And it's like,
Oh, man.
hey.
Wow.
And so they just start going off on him. Man, you didn't have enough respect to say something to us. And it's just like he hangs up. And it's like they try to call him back. He won't pick up. But he's like,
Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. This year, start thinking about crawl space encapsulation for your home. One, means you have a very tidy basement crawl space. That helps. Also, the bigger deal, it protects your floors from moisture, protects your vents and ducts from mold and mildew. It protects the house. It helps with allergies. It's just tremendous process. Southeast Termite and Pest Control can do it for you. Read more about their crawl space encapsulation. Learn more at southeasttermite.com. Give them a call this week. The Haynes family's been doing this since 1971. It's who I use. You should too. Southeast Termite and Pest Control. Okay, back with Bob Hodge joining us now. The circle is complete. Everyone on today's show is now with us. Bob, thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
The NCAA Selection Committee gave the world a look at how they viewed things as of yesterday. Let's take a look at the projection they put forth for their top 16 teams. There you have it. Tennessee got a number 2 seed down in the East Regional. They are potted in there with Duke, who's the number 1 seed, with Arizona number 3, and with Rick Pitino and the rejuvenated St. John's. Well, they're not the Redmen anymore. Red Storm. I don't know what they're called. But the St. John's Johnnies. You see Auburn, Alabama, and Florida. You got 3 number 1 seeds. The SEC got a whole lot of love. 6 of the top 16 seeds, in fact. Auburn, Alabama, Florida, number 1 seeds. Tennessee and Texas A&M, number 2 seeds. Kentucky, a number 3 seed. Bob, did the committee do right and we'll leave this up for a second, but did the committee do right by Tennessee in your book?
I think they did very right by Tennessee. I think being the number 1-2 seed is good.
Yeah, so you're 1 slot away from being a 1 seed.
Yes, you're 1 slot away from being a 1 seed, which means it's still out there since you've got games to play. If they had put them lower, it wouldn't have been shocking. But then when you look at who they've lost to, okay, you've lost to Kentucky, the 3. You lost to Florida, a 1. You lost to Auburn, a 1. So you kind of get why they've lost, but they're still where they are. So yeah, I think they did. I think they did pretty good by it.
There's a lot of coaches out there that rather have that number 1-2 seed than the 4th 1 seed, because who you're playing in that, you're going to be matched up. Just from the ranking side of it, I think they got it right. I'd rather be in the if I'm the number 1 of all those number 1s. I like Michigan at the number 4. That pod that was over there.
Let's go. If we can get that back up, great. If not, don't worry about it.
I mean, I think Duke is really good.
There it is.
I think Oklahoma's beat Arizona.
If I'm Tennessee, I want no part of Michigan. They've bounced them from about 3 tournaments in the last 15 years. I don't want to see Michigan.
Well, like St. John's, St. John's has never been there before, but we've beaten Arizona, so I like that matchup. Duke's tough.
Well, this would be the East Regional is in Newark, New Jersey. So you would have. Here's the thing: would you have a ton of I don't know how the St. John's fans. I don't know how big that fan base is.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're playing North Carolina in Charlotte. you might be playing St. John's, the 4 seed in Newark. That's not bad.
Yeah.
In terms
You know,
of
when I
the
look at
matchups.
that, John, one thing that's interesting to me is 2 number 2 seeds play Saturday at Texas A&M. With Texas A&M a number 2 in the South, Tennessee a number 2 in the East. So you would think the outcome of that game could change who is a number 2 and who has a chance to move up or who moves down. So, I mean, to me, that just puts added importance on Tennessee's next game after a midweek bye.
Okay. Anything else stand out about Tennessee's draw there? If that's the way it goes. I mean, I'm like you. I would rather be a number 1 personally, but to get the number 1 2 seed. I mean, a couple weeks ago we talked about on the show. You had started falling down the 2 line. You were getting close to the 3s. If you're up there at the top, you could get a 1 seed. And the big difference, the difference is you're going to play an 8 seed or a 7 seed in the second round. Negligible. Easy for me to say. But the trick is Tennessee's just never had that number 1 seed. And for some reason, there's value in the fact that it's another.
That you've had a number 1.
It's another box you've checked if you get the number 1 seed.
I think it adds an extra layer of pressure that Tennessee will already feel going in because of expectations. You know, if we're the number 1 seed, now it's like Final Four, right?
Sure.
You're the number 1 seed. You're one of the top 4 teams going in. So there'll be a lot of people that will say, hey, you should make the Final Four. Whereas you're number 2, there's a little bit more wiggle room for the expectations that you have going in the NCAA tournament. So I don't think there's that much of a difference between the last number 1 and the first number 2, especially when you throw in the expectations.
Well, and just about the bracket that you just showed, and I don't follow college basketball down to every team, but I kind of like those 4 that were in there with Tennessee compared to going into some of the other brackets with other people. I mean, if I was going to play one of those number 1, okay, take my chances with Duke.
As opposed to saying, let me ask you that one. As a coach, you could play Duke, who, now you played them a couple of years ago in the tournament, but would you rather play a team you haven't seen all year, or would you rather play a team that you know?
Depends on the result of the team that you know, but and some of the matchups. But
you wouldn't want to play Kentucky, in other words.
Quick turnaround for the way that these guys prepare and the IQ of a Tennessee basketball player compared to most kids around the country. I'd rather take the advantage of playing against a team that you know, because we'll be able to be more prepared than a team that doesn't have the same IQ.
In the NCAA tournament, you could be playing a team for the 4th time. You could play them twice in the regular season, SEC tournament, and then in the NCAA. And Bruce Pearl was talking about that after they beat Alabama yesterday. That possibility is out there.
Oh, Lord. For Rick Barnes' sake, do not let Bruce Pearl go farther than Tennessee this year. Of course, Auburn knocked off Alabama last night in a 1-2 battle, and that really, what a shift in basketball in that state for the number 1, number 2 game to be. I mean, we had that here in 2007 when you were over there on the staff with Bruce Pearl. It's Tennessee versus Memphis, 1 versus 2. Memphis had basketball tradition. Sorry, Vol fans, but Memphis has been to a Final Four. Tennessee hadn't. So that wasn't as shocking. Alabama and Auburn.
Yeah.
All that tradition.
If you Alabama and Auburn are playing a 1 and 2 game, the Iron Bowl's huge.
Yes, exactly. It's football.
When you started talking about Alabama and you said the word shift, that was not the word that I thought you were about to use. So thankfully,
and kudos to Bruce Pearl, the first coach to win that 1 versus 2 matchup twice, and he did it both times on the road.
Bring him back. All right. Mark Pancratz, thank you very much. Appreciate it. When we come back, Tennessee's final 5 regular season games and why you should feel pretty good about Texas A&M and all the others on that list. Come on back. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine. Listen to these deals. Good only through March 2nd. Clock's ticking. Rebates up to $5,000 back on Godfrey pontoons and Hurricane deck boats. Depends on the model of boat, of course, but still, or on the model. But $5,000 rebates. Godfrey pontoons, Hurricane deck boats. Rebates up to $2,000 on all new Avid aluminum boats. Plus, they have deals on Suncatcher pontoons, G3 John boats, bass boats from G3, Skeeter bass boats. If you buy those by March 31st. You got a boat show coming up as well, folks. If you are at all thinking about getting a boat, then you need to just have Madisonville Marine right now tattooed on your brain. That's where the deals are. Madmarine.com. But if you're wise, you'll head down to Highway 411 North in Madisonville. Visit Joe Special and his team down there at Madisonville Marine. All right. Tennessee has 5 regular season. We're back with the whole hee-haw gang here. Bob, Coach Mears, Chuck, Coach Pearl, and Josh Ward right here. Let's take a look at the remaining schedule for Tennessee, if we could. There it is. Texas A&M, and then you've got LSU, both on the road. Alabama, big one here. Ole Miss on the road. South Carolina here. Those are your 5 remaining games. But I want to show you something interesting. Why you should feel pretty decent about who Tennessee's going to play in those last 5. Go ahead and pop this up. What you got there is the effective field goal percentage for all of the SEC. And you see Tennessee down there toward the bottom, okay? Ole Miss, LSU, South Carolina, A&M. Yeah, they're all worse than Tennessee. So in terms of your defense,
wow.
Alabama's the only team now, they shoot lights out. But in terms of your defense, on paper, it's a very dangerous game to play. It's not played with a calculator. It's played with a basketball and a round hoop. But you've got Ole Miss, LSU, South Carolina, and Texas A&M, who in terms of effective field goal percentage are all below Tennessee. In terms of the remaining schedule, gentlemen, is it a good enough schedule with Texas A&M on there, with Ole Miss on there, for Tennessee to earn that number 1 seed?
Yes.
Yes, for sure.
Yes,
Yes.
it is. Yes,
No.
it is.
But
Bob, you just said in the last segment you
God.
thought they could. Now you don't.
No, with that schedule, no. I think for them to get a number 1 seed, I mean, I think they have to beat Alabama. I think you
they have to beat A&M.
Alabama.
Have to beat A&M.
Well, I mean,
Right.
I think beating A&M goes without saying.
Right.
But if you lose to Alabama, I think that closes the door on your number 1 seed
still have
unless
Nashville.
something incredible happens in the SEC tournament.
Everybody else is playing too. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the thing.
everybody else is playing too.
Now, here's the thing: Alabama just lost last night to Auburn. So
Right.
where are they? Did they drop to the 3rd number 1 or the 4th?
I haven't seen yet.
We don't know.
No,
So-
I think they can get there, but I think Alabama's kind of the key to the whole shooting.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I mean, you know,
all right, I'll
let's-
disagree, and I'll tell you what. I'll disagree, and I'll tell you why. I think you've got a 1-game season right now. You've got some time off. You're going to Texas A&M for a key game at noon Eastern.
Perfect time
The
to have
winner
the off
of that game is likely going to have will have the inside track to the 4th spot in the SEC, and it's so crucial because that's the double bye. And that's where things start to line up and how you start knocking things down. To me, it's a 1-game season right now.
Well, let me redirect this. I'll take what you just said. I'll take what Bob just said, and I'll package it into a fantastic question.
Okay.
And we're not talking about, because you still have the SEC tournament ahead of you.
Right.
So we're just talking about, would they be in position to have the 1 seed at the end of the regular season, going to the SEC tournament? Would they be in position if they finish 4-1 and the only loss is to Alabama?
Yes.
I think so.
That A&M win's going to be huge if they can go
Because-
down to Aggie land and beat them. Yeah, because right now, based on if you look at Palm, if you look at Lenardi, I don't know who your favorite bracketologist is. A&M and Tennessee right now are bunkmates. So if you have that heads-up win at their house, that's going to get you a little bit of
And here's
wiggle
the other
room.
thing, and I know Josh is going to weigh in. It's quad 1 wins,
not
too.
Reminder, you
It's
also have
quad
a win
1
against
wins.
a Florida team that's a 1 seed. You have a Florida win.
yeah, for sure, Tennessee would be in position. What happens with other teams will matter too. What happens with Florida down the stretch? Houston winning at Arizona was a big deal, I think, yesterday.
Massive.
But 4-1 with your scenarios, they still lose to Alabama. Alabama's ahead of Tennessee, so at that point, you're likely not catching them. Their final stretch is tough. They have Florida and at Auburn. They still have to go to Auburn, which can be really difficult. But I think Tennessee could still 4-1 with road wins at Texas A&M and Ole Miss.
Right.
Would give Tennessee a chance to jump Florida, depending on what the Gators do down the stretch for a 4th number 1 seed.
How much did that Ole Miss loss to in-state rival Mississippi State ding them last night? And maybe we're just getting in the weeds a little bit, splitting hairs here, but that just shows you everybody has to play everybody. So we'll see how it plays out.
But in a
Nashville's huge.
vacuum, I don't think you can lose to Alabama.
And right now, Texas, who has
I mean,
the
you know,
highest
yes,
winning
everybody
streak in the
plays
SEC?
everybody else. There's 5,000 different things out there.
Right.
I just think you can get there if you go undefeated. I don't think if you don't go undefeated, you don't get there.
Let me use your own words against you.
Okay.
That last segment, you said that you think you can see why Tennessee didn't fall any further
Right.
because they've lost to teams that are number 1 seeds. So how could not beating Alabama work against them? What if they beat
Well,
all
then
these
you
other
don't
teams?
fall any further. That doesn't get you back to
yeah,
number
but
1
all
seed.
these other teams you beat could get you past that.
I just think there's not a lot of value in beating LSU. I mean, all the others.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss and A&M's big. Yeah.
I mean, because unless we want to put the entire SEC schedule up there.
Well, exactly.
Right.
Not to mention the fact there are other teams outside of the SEC. I mean,
Yeah.
what are the odds of the SEC? You've got 4 of the top 5. Would the committee actually?
Make you 4 out of 4?
Yeah. Would the committee ever say all 4?
Oh, something bad would have to happen to Duke.
Duke would have to
yeah,
fall
Duke
down
would have to
on their face.
And with the player,
You're missing
player
my
of the
point.
year.
Okay,
I
that's
hear what
not
you're
the
saying.
point.
No,
I'm talking. Would
from-
they do if, let's say, all
Literally
things being
from a
equal?
PR standpoint, would they
Yeah,
be
would
able
they
to
do
get
it?
away with
And
that?
this
don't
is
think
coming
so.
2 days removed from Jay Billis going on First Take and saying this is the greatest Now, he's wrong. This is stupid what he said. This is the greatest conference that we have seen during the NCAA tournament time, as if the Big East has never existed. But he believes the potential of 14 of the 16 SEC teams making it the greatest conference of all time. You need people like him shilling on national television to Lenardi and others and go, yep.
Well, here's the thing. I'll be happy to say that if you get 13 or 14 teams in and they all make runs. If you have 13 or 14 teams in and one makes the Final Four, don't talk to me about it's the greatest conference ever. Then you're exposed. That's my view.
I agree with that.
We'll
I
see.
agree with that.
All right. So, yeah, Jake Billis.
Comes down to Bama, doesn't it?
When we come back, the baseball Vols start the year 2-0, and we're going to break down Hofstra for you. No, we're not. We're going to talk about the goal. The goal is obviously a repeat national championship. That's tough. What's the bare minimum to keep momentum, keep the pedal to the metal with this program? What's the bare minimum this year to keep fans just gaga over the Vol baseball? Come on back. Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Hearthside Bank. I've been telling you about the Sports Source Digital Network, our way to create and deliver more content to you for free. Well, Hearthside Bank is a group that's making that possible. They believe in this region. They believe in serving the people of this region, whether that's helping me create content for you or that's helping you reach your financial goals. They promise to work with you to make your goals become a reality. Always within reach. It's their mantra. It's their saying. It means something. They know that you need personal attention on your finances, not just a digital screen from someone in Hackensack. Hearthside Bank, folks, I've worked with these people. They're good people, and they are all up and down southeastern Kentucky and eastern Tennessee, right out in Farragut, in fact. HearthsideBank.com to learn more. The Vol baseball team opened their defense of the 2024 national title, though no coaches ever liked hearing defense. That's all, new season, that's in the past.
Yeah.
They've opened their defense of the national championship season this weekend against Hofstra. Opened up 2-0. They put the logo up on the outfield wall. The rings have been, the rings are out there for the players. My question, we know the goal is another national championship. But no one has repeated in the College World Series since South Carolina way back in 2010 and 2011. It's been 15 years. In fact, the last 7 College World Series have been won by 6 different SEC teams and Oregon State. So it's not just, it's tough because it's always someone new. It's always someone new in the SEC. 6 of the last 7 have been won by somebody new in the SEC. So let's just play the odds and take a repeat off the table. Mm-hmm. What does it take? What's the minimum to keep this fan base in a fervor over UT baseball? And I ask this before people are going, no way we'd ever come off the bandwagon. Lady Vol basketball cooled. Sorry, it did. The buzz, not been the same. It's getting back, not been the same. Softball, I don't know. People have followed it. People were hooked by the Monica Abbott year. I don't know that we've ever had the fervor that we had when Monica Abbott was here. So it can. If Tennessee goes out there and has a 500 season this year, I don't think it's going to be packed at Lindsey Nelson at the end of the year. So my question is, what's the bare minimum for folks to just keep this momentum going, this program rolling forward?
And to kind of go off of what you just made, the comment about repeating, go back and look at those defending national champions and how their next season has gone. It hasn't been the strongest. You can go through and look at from one year to the other. Not saying that Tennessee's going to fall off a cliff,
right?
But it's very difficult to your point.
Well, everybody in the SEC is loaded for bear, and they're all looking at you.
To answer your question, at minimum, I think you need to have a lot of personality. Every time you turn on the television or listen to John on the radio, you need a team that is in my opinion, similar to the 2022 villain squad, where it's
oh my God,
I get it, bat
Why do
flips
you
and middle
need
fake
that?
because it's college baseball.
Oh my God!
It's-
I'm talking about wins and losses.
No.
Okay,
No.
go ahead. No,
I hear what you're saying. What I'm saying is, look, nobody is. There's going to be somebody out there watching this show that goes, he's wrong. I'm a diehard Tennessee baseball fan.
I've got
but
an answer.
4 of them could walk into a restaurant and you'd go, I think they play for Tennessee baseball.
Here's my answer.
You need personality and you need at minimum another trip to
Here's
Omaha.
my answer.
There you
Minimum.
go.
That's the question.
I've got the
Omaha.
correct answer. Have a chance to go back to Omaha, and to me that would be hosting a
Super-
sub-regional,
Super regional.
super regional, and then you have a chance to go back to Omaha, and then you see what happens.
So host a
I
super
think that's
regional.
host
Host a super regional. You say they have to go all the way back to Omaha.
Yes.
No, he
and
says
be
they got to
villains.
put on meeting coats and
Yeah, they gotta-
funny hats
they gotta
and
I'm
telling
basketball
you.
goals.
Okay, guys.
No, you're the kind of guy that would have liked the Miami Hurricanes. I hated the Miami Hurricanes. Even when people are like, you're old. No, I
telling
was
you.
young and I hated the Miami Hurricanes.
I think Chuck's right. I think be in a position to go back to Omaha. You ain't got to make it, but if you're poised to do it, and yeah, if you're poised and you don't make it, that hurts. But I think if you're that good, you're fine with some fur coats and some funky hats.
Daddy hats. So you're saying
Daddy
super
hats.
regional.
I'm going to go super regional.
Yeah.
Josh.
My initial reaction is go back to Omaha. Get back to the World Series so you feel like you are really defending.
Consistently.
Consistently there,
sorry.
but also that you're in a true position to defend your title. If you don't get back to the College World Series, then did you defend it? Even if Tony Vitello or the players say, well, this is a new team.
It was another year.
Yeah. Super regional does make sense if along the way you've had exciting wins against Arkansas and Vanderbilt. Those are the final 2 series of the regular season. I bring them up because fans don't like those programs and a lot of fans don't like those coaches.
Yeah.
So if you
Right.
if you got wins against the SEC baseball opponents that you really don't like,
Right.
and you fall short at home in a super regional where you were at least there, you're a part of it, I think that could
But I say
that
I'm-
could be the answer.
I'm
But
not
my initial
even-
reaction is get back to Omaha.
I'm not considering losing in the super regional. I'm thinking about when you get there at home, you're going to win it. But I think the bare minimum. I'm
Well,
serious.
then you're saying,
Then
well,
you're saying
here,
go-
No, but I'm saying the
I'm
bare
not saying
minimum.
just
the bare minimum.
that was
to
the
me
question.
Is to, yeah,
Okay.
it's to host. It's to host.
then you can
a
stop
super
right there.
regional.
It's like, but I mean winning
Exactly.
the super
I'm
regional.
not- I'm not even thinking about losing it. I'm thinking about.
Well, then you're
hosting the
saying
Super
College
Bowl.
World Series. Okay. So Bob's right.
But he
You
said I
guys
was-
are, no, you changed.
No, I didn't change.
You did. You're
clarified.
Cavalarising the question to where it doesn't mean anything.
No, this time he's
You're covering all
Cavalarising an
bases,
answer.
which is what you do. You guys are okay. You're right, and you're wrong as hell. The last thing Tennessee needs is more players flipping birds.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
It's what
you
gets
like
people to
wrestling
tune-
too, don't you?
I
You like wrestling.
love pro wrestling, but guess what? That's what made college baseball so infectious
No,
again in
winning.
college.
Right.
World Series.
I think.
Look at the ratings.
Let me ask you this.
22 Tennessee team
Let me
came on
ask
the
you
scene.
this. You can talk over me on your show. I yell at you on my show. I got the clock. You got the clock on the radio. Here's my question. I'm pretty sure Tennessee fans last year enjoyed that national championship without all the nonsense. I'm guessing if I asked them, okay, you can trade last year's national title with that good team that everybody liked for the jackasses. I'm guessing most of them aren't going to go, yeah. Give me the bat flipping, bird flipping, classless guys. I don't think so. I think they like the championship. This is good because you can email us at SSDN questions and ask how this argument ends off air. Because when we come back, one national football writer thinks the Vol football program he ranks them based on expectation. Did he get it right? We'll talk about that next. Come on back. Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Safety Systems, East Tennessee's #1 source for security needs for your home. They offer wired and wireless systems, camera systems, gate and access control. For your business, they offer commercial security systems, fire alarm systems, testing, inspection services. Call VFL JJ Surlis and the Safety Systems team this week. Safety Systems. All right, going to be quick here. Stuart Mandel of The Athletic tried to put college football teams in different tiers based on a reader's question. All right, said, well, blah, 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 blah. If the tiers are like this, what do you do? And Mandel broke it down that way. We're just going to look at mainly the SEC teams. In Tier 1, which is teams that expect to compete for national titles and they aren't going to celebrate anything less. He only put Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State in there. It's a 3-team period, all right? So Alabama, Georgia from the SEC. Tier 2 was broken down as they expect to make the playoff on a near yearly basis, and they consider a deep run to be a success. In there was four from the SEC. LSU, Texas, Oklahoma, and Florida. Expect to make a playoff on a near yearly basis and consider a deep run to be a success. Then Tennessee was in Tier 3. Makes the playoff every 3 to 5 years and considers it a success to win a game or two. He put them in the same category with Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Auburn. Do you agree that Tennessee fan expectations are more in line with Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Auburn than they are LSU, Texas, Oklahoma, and Florida?
No.
No.
No, I don't think so either.
No.
All right, so next segment.
A lot of Tennessee fans just heard you rattle that off.
I don't agree with Tennessee or Auburn in that stance. I think Auburn's fans' expectations are closer to Florida and Oklahoma. I agree with where Oklahoma and Florida are, even with Florida's issues for a number of years now. But I think Tennessee and Auburn have higher expectations for sure. A&M maybe, but
especially when you taste the very first time you make the college football playoff, you want more of this.
Tennessee's back in the playoff this year and one and done.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And fans are going to be upset.
I wouldn't have Bama necessarily in that top tier, but I would move Texas up.
Well, you're basically, I think he's looking at it more than just this year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I still, with the coaching change at Bama and with what Sark has going on at Texas, I would move those, change those two.
I think this is kind of realistic, though, for Tennessee. I laid out what Tennessee's expectations should be. I said make the playoff top 15, basically top 15 once they get to a 14-team playoff. You're practically in it every year. I think every other year for Tennessee, this is 3 to 5 years. I would go more common than that, but I think if you get into it and make a deep run or win a game or two, I think that's a satisfactory year for Tennessee. I really do. And I would put Florida in that category, too. I don't think Florida – it's been 16
a while
years.
Since Florida, yes.
16 years since they won an SEC title or a national championship, so let's bring them down a little bit.
I'm going back to the archives, but you did a show about 6 weeks ago. It was coming off the playoff, and you were showing and you were running through the Bamas, the Clemsons, the Ohio States, how realistic it is to reach these points. Then you hear these tiers, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what you were presenting. So it's more realistic, even if Tennessee fans disagree.
See, I right now would put Texas, Georgia, and Alabama in a world of their own, and then about 5 or 6 SEC schools right behind that. And they can all make a case for exactly what you just said. Oh, you make it every year. No, you make it once every 3 years.
Well,
win some games. So I think that's the way I would have made my tier. You'd have had 3 above everybody else.
Yep.
Tennessee, LSU, Florida. I know Auburn's got the expectations. Just been a while since they've lived up to it.
Well, I mean, we also, when we look at other schools, Stuart Manel's looking from the outside in. We do that with other schools. I would look at this and say, Oklahoma. Are they really up? But here's the deal. Oklahoma's competed for a lot of national titles. They've been in the playoff mix a lot more than Tennessee has or Florida has in the last few years. They've had a drop-off since Lincoln Riley took off, no question. Does that mean they're doomed?
No. But welcome to the SEC.
Yeah, we'll
How
see.
about some more realistic
you're dropping
expectations?
Alabama and Kalen DeBoer already.
Well,
let's see.
Yeah.
Let's give him more than 1 year.
Okay.
So that's where I am. But we all look at we are quicker to downgrade other programs than we are Tennessee. And they are in reverse.
My dropping Bama is based more on Saban being gone and I almost don't care who's there now.
I got you.
It's not Saban.
Yeah. Makes
And
sense.
that may be the reality, but I still don't think that's the expectation.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's put up the poll results. My director had it right, and I blew right by them. Okay, you middled it. It's 25% say we feel great, killer defense. 15% say awful, shoddy offense. A full 60% feel, it's a Barnes team.
The greatest coach in Tennessee basketball history, and I'm not going on a ledge saying that, and it's a Barnes team. All right, come on.
That's pretty good.
But it's his tournament history. It's his tournament history.
Second round, Rick.
I'm not saying that,
I
but
know
that's
you're
what
not.
people say.
Yeah, right.
Now, he made an Elite Eight last year.
Yeah.
So, and he's made a Sweet 16 and Elite Eight the last 2 years. So that means this year's Final Four.
Yeah.
Do the math. All right, when we
The
come
year
back.
after that, national champion.
When we come back, finals. Then the national championship next year.
See you in 2027.
One step at a time. All right, when we come back, 6 Vols have been invited to the NFL Combine. There's one guy who wasn't. Might surprise you. Come on back. Welcome back in. taking shots at other people in the media here off air. Well, because I'm sure they do at us. Welcome back. This segment
That's
brought to you
John
by-
Wilkerson.
Yeah, Wilkerson, man. Oh, yeah. Hey, if you've seen the Sports Source Digital Network, you've seen the bar room that we've built. You've seen the beautiful poker room that we built with the. You've got a Pop-A-Shot game in there. You got the dartboard. You got boss toss. You got a shuffleboard. You even got a jukebox in there. What it tells you is whatever you want, they got it at games and things, including right now March Madness right on the other side of the just about to turn the page to March Madness. They've got home theater seats. So if you're sitting there going, I don't want to watch in this same crummy lazy boy with the springs hitting me in the right cheek, then get down to games and things and get yourself a new home theater seat. They got great ones. OurGameRoom.com to learn more. And boy, they've got anything to make your house fun because life should be fun. Games and things. All right, 6 Tennessee players received invitations to the NFL Combine this week. James Pierce, Omar Norman-Lott, Dylan Sampson, Elijah Simmons, Brew McCoy, and Dante Thornton. Cooper Mays, praised locally, high and low, consistently, did not get an invitation. My question, were you surprised by anybody who did get an invitation? Were you surprised by anyone who did not get invited? I threw out Mays. Maybe there's somebody else that you're sitting there. Josh, I know. Where's Will Brooks? You said before the show. Are there any surprises on who made the list or who didn't make the list?
I think Cooper Mays, to me, is by far the biggest surprise for not making the list. You can make an argument for those other guys. I mean, Thornton's got the speed.
Yeah.
Brew McCoy, you know, he's a big possession receiver that blocks pretty well. All these other guys. It really surprised me about Cooper Mays, and it wouldn't surprise me if somebody picks him up in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, and he ends up having a really, really good career. Because if you sit there and watch him, he does a lot of things really well, and I know the NFL picks apart all the little things you don't. But I'm surprised.
Would they just be
his size
is undersized
they've talked
is
about
by
they've
NFL
talked-
standards.
They've talked about his size. He probably can't be guard. He's just a center. They're also talking about the fact that he's had injuries. His junior year was hurt by injuries. But there's a couple other technical notes that I read. But any other surprises? We got about 3 minutes here.
I think Brew McCoy is a little bit of a surprise just based on the injury factor there and games lost, and especially later in his
Surprised
college
that he
year.
was invited?
Yeah. And Dante, I mean, he flashed against Vanderbilt, so maybe that looks really good.
He's got speed.
He's got speed, so you can take him. But
Brew McCoy surprised me a
Brew,
little bit.
Brew.
I mean,
So I was surprised Cooper didn't get invited because we know how important he was to Tennessee, but he was a finalist for the Remington Trophy, which means he was getting that national attention.
Yep,
there it is.
A year ago, he was on the Senior Bowl kind of watch list. I don't know if it was an official watch list, but the executive director said, we're watching Cooper Mays, and then he came back for another year. So I would think that would have gotten him some NFL attention. Brew McCoy going to the Senior Bowl is, or at least being invited to it, is why I was not surprised by him. Names that I might be a little surprised would be like an Amari Thomas. I'm not stunned at all, but I could have seen him there if Elijah Simmons.
More of these defensive line,
because Amari played a bigger role for Tennessee than Elijah. Elijah has physical traits, though, that NFL teams will want to see.
you mean the beautiful singing voice.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
Tyler, you get the last question here, and that is, did Cooper Mays make a mistake in coming back last year?
No, if this is where he knew that his career was going, so he could scoop up a little bit more NIL dollars. Now, clearly isn't thinking that at the time, but the way that it plays out, he sees his brother as a 6th-rounder to Carolina. There were a lot of people who believed that Cooper had better attributes than what his brother did during his time here in Knoxville. I'm going to say no, but hindsight's always 20/20. To answer your original question, I'm very surprised Cooper didn't get an invite to the Combine.
go prove him wrong.
That's what I'm saying.
Go prove
I
him
always
wrong.
like it when guys who come back, it pays off for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, we'll see how it pays off for him. But right now, not getting a Combine invite, that's surprising to me. When we come back, how important is this year's NFL draft to Josh Heupel and your Tennessee Volunteers? We'll discuss that, and I'll tell you why I'm asking it. Come on back. Welcome back to the Sports Source. Folks, I mentioned it a minute ago. You can send us your questions to SSDN questions, Sports Source Digital Network questions at gmail.com. Please include your first and last names and your town. We like to throw that in. And then we do a Q&A show every 2 or 3 weeks over there on the network where we just sit there around for about an hour and just kick around your questions and answer them. Chuck, you were in on the last
sir.
one. Jimmy
Yes,
and
sir.
Ryan Callahan. David Ubbins done it with us. So send us your questions to ssdnquestions@gmail.com. And in case you're wanting to follow us, there are 3 different ways. One, you can follow the original YouTube channel. It's orange. If you look up YouTube, if you just search Sports Source TV, it'll pop up. You can go by name at the Sports Source 8330. You can find it. And that's one way you can always, if you ever miss the show, if you're ever out of town, you can catch it there on YouTube. We've also got the digital network channel we're talking about. We just jumped ahead, but that's okay. And then below that, we also had Facebook, which is new, so you can just search Sports Source Digital Network and follow us on Facebook. We just launched that. Heck, if you follow us, you may be number 4. So go for it, get in early. And then finally, what is the Sports Source Digital Network? It's basically a regional sports network focused on Knoxville and East Tennessee, but it's completely free. So many people think that subscribe means you pay for something. It's basically just a follow. So on YouTube, we're featuring your favorite Sports Source people there. We all got our different shows, bringing you hours of extra programming every week. You come there, you hit subscribe, and all it does is it tells you, hey, there's something new. Watch it, don't watch it. It just tips you off. So the Sports Source Digital Network. Hey, they got something new. All right, but you don't have to pay nothing. Don't cost nothing.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at NFL picks from the SEC since 2021. Since Josh Heupel arrived, Tennessee ranks 9th, tied for 9th in the SEC in terms of the amount of pro talent they have spat forth. Auburn, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas A&M all equal with 15. They are behind Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, Kentucky, South Carolina. Part of that is what he inherited, there's no question. At the same time, I don't know how many recruits are out there thinking, yeah, but he only got this many guys when he started. So if you're looking at, we always talk about Georgia and Alabama get a discount in the NIL because they're pro factories. All right, is this year's draft important or no? It's not important for Josh Heupel in Tennessee based on these numbers. Yay or nay?
Nay.
Not important.
I don't think it's important. I think you can build a good team without having to be the best drafted team. Okay, what come first, the chicken or the egg? You recruited guys good enough to get to the NFL, so your draft numbers are way high. Or our draft numbers were way high, and we were able to get a bunch of guys going to the NFL. I'm going to go with the chicken came first.
And then he crossed the road for some reason to get his egg.
No, because this used to be the story of who can get me to the NFL so I can get a first large payday. Now with NIL, it's I'm willing to go anywhere who's got the highest dollar value, and I'm essentially betting on myself that I can get to the next level.
I think the top end, I would disagree only with the top end talent. I think the top end talent is still sitting there saying, yes, I want paid now, but I want to be a first round draft pick.
And that's why, can you put me in the league? Yeah, I think there is some importance there. And the importance to me is you don't want to be behind Kentucky, South Carolina, and Auburn and players on that
I think you're tied
list.
with Auburn. But
But it matters too because that's what a parent is going to say or a player is going to say, NIL dollars, can you help me get to the league?
Does it matter, Josh?
I think it matters. Yeah, it's not everything, but Georgia's there for a reason. They have a ton of talent. I don't mean to balk at the chicken or the egg idea there.
Excuse me. Nice.
But you've got to be kidding.
A dad joke. Very nice.
The closer you can inch there, the better off you can be in the transfer portal if it's you versus an LSU, an Ohio State, because Tennessee is in the mix with those programs and trying to land some players.
Yes.
That's recruiting. There's a highly touted running back. Dylan Sampson getting drafted perhaps helps. So it's not everything, but if you can inch closer to the top, I do think that matters.
Yes, I agree. I think it matters because, as you say, you're now competing. We've waited for them to recruit with the big boys. Now you're recruiting with the big boys. All right, are you going to have to continue to just throw out a lot more NIL than they are? Or are you going to be able to say, hey, we can get you the NFL same way they can? So I think it does matter. All right. Closing thoughts?
I'm going to stick with it plays a role.
Okay.
But I mean, if you've got 10 things go into the mix, I don't think that's one of the more
good. That killed the 10 seconds that I needed to waste. Yeah. Excellent. I shut up way too early was the problem. Thanks. Thanks for watching. Mom. We'll see you next Sunday right back here on the Sports Source. Thanks to all these guys. Thanks to our sponsors. Check out the new digital network on YouTube. See you next week.